Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farmbox Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.
Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to the BS Show, the one, the only podcast dedicated to mixed martial arts and combat sports in Atlantic Canada. I am your host, Boyd Sharpe, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Rick Trash Canyon Doyle. Welcome aboard, Rick. We're back.
Happy 420, my short pecker friend. It's awesome to be back today.
It is awesome to be back, and I got to say, it was awesome to be away for a while. Turned the show over to Amy Pitt and Courtney Pratt, and the ladies absolutely rocked it. Had a fantastic show. I laughed, I cried, I got my money's worth out of that one, I guarantee it. They did a super job. It was fantastic to hear them give their take on women in the combat sports and fighting world. Super guests. I couldn't have been happier with how that show went, and super looking forward to getting those ladies back on so that they can build on that first successful show.
It was an awesome show, Boyd. I really loved it. I sat back that night and just checked it out, and to hear the different stories from the ladies, and they're not whining and crying of what they've had to go through as the pioneers in this area, coming in and getting things off the ground and building it. They are just proud warriors, and to listen to the stories, they were inspiring. You know, when you hear about an esthetician by day and then in the gym training at night, banging it out and sweating, and you can just picture her at work with a black eye like Goodfellow, except much better looking and probably less makeup on than him.
Yeah, you're referring to Christine, and she was a great guest, and very happy to report that she did head down to New York, and she won I think a couple of medals in New York in gi and no gi, and then headed up to Boston after some training in New York, and won herself another medal at the Boston Open. So, and I think that it was a pretty deep division both in New York and Boston with I think 10 or a dozen very high-level ladies in her weight class. So super good on Christine for going down there representing Maritime's Jiu-Jitsu and doing herself proud. I actually had a quick chat with her just off the corner of the mats one night when she was preparing to go to New York, and somebody said to her sort of why she chose the career path that she did, and she said it's all about lifestyle. She loves the jiu-jitsu, and the career that she's in affords her the flexibility that she can train when she wants and where she wants and when she wants, and affords her the opportunity to travel and compete. So she's going to be the kind of lady who's going to draw an awful lot of other people onto the mats when they see the success that she's having abroad.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, you know. They came on the show, and really these ladies, when you hear their stories, they're walking into a male-dominated area, you know, when they were starting out. And they had the guts to go in, which it does take a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts for a guy to do it. And they went into that world, and they were embraced in that world. They loved what they were doing. And now they've paved the way for other, you know, athletes to come into our business and our lifestyle, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea there were so many women's-only programs around. I know they have one here at Bashudakai where Courtney Pratt is. Obviously, there's one now also at Titans where Christine trains, although she trains most of the time with the guys because she's looking to sharpen her game to sort of the international competition level. And then I've seen several other gyms since that show put a little notice on their Facebook pages about women's only groups or specific classes. So, and you just know when they get into the women's only classes, they'll get oriented to the sport, they'll become comfortable with the sport, and as they get their stripes and get their belts, I'm sure that they'll progress on to the mixed classes as well. So, super good to see for the growth of the sport as a whole.
It was awesome, man, and it was great to sit back and listen to the stories, and that's what this show is all about. So here we are, Boyd, 420 day. I'm as high as a crow's ass right now, and we're going to talk some BJJ tonight, which is awesome because you and I have talked before. You said there's a bit of a, I do a little bit of puffing, man. I mean, my hips and knees bother me all the time, and it makes things tolerable for me. So, I puff quite openly. But you were telling me at one point that there's kind of a subgroup of people that do BJJ as well, like that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a subgroup. I think it's probably a majority group. I know there are certain clubs especially, but I think it's throughout the whole Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world that smoking marijuana and rolling either before rolling or in preparation for rolling is entirely accepted. And I think it's probably because it's a sport that requires you to be so relaxed and to be in a frame of mind where you're not going to panic. I assume that's why I got in there. I'm obviously not an expert in jiu-jitsu or pot smoking. The only reason I'm high tonight is because I'm on the ninth floor of an office building working late.
Well, you know what? It's something I wouldn't mind talking about sometime because it's something I've never tried before, to be honest. And I think it's more or less because I'm not sure how my coach would take that if I walked in and said, "Hey, coach, I'm high as a kite. Can I try rolling?" I might think
I have
better.
I have a funny feeling we wouldn't have to search very hard or very long before we could find some people who could tell us all about smoking and rolling. So, or rolling and rolling.
But I want to do that sometime.
Yeah, we'll do it for sure. I want to give a very brief introduction to the first guest that we have on tonight. Skippy, I assume you're getting him in the queue sometime over the next minute or so. But I had an opportunity to meet this guy in several different facets of my life. His name is Craig Ferguson, and he's an award-winning filmmaker, for one. So I met him in the early stages of trying to pull together the Cubicle to the Cage television show, because obviously a tight-knit community of filmmakers in the province of Nova Scotia, so everyone kind of knows each other. So we did manage to cross paths there. And then I found out, obviously, that he was a dedicated grappler. We're going to find out more from him, but I think he started as a wrestler even. And then he got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, and he travels basically the world, training in all kinds of different Jiu-Jitsu clubs. He is also the guy that I called the last Extreme Cage Combat MMA fights with, and I found out through the process of preparing for that the guy's an encyclopedia of grappling and MMA knowledge. I mean, I was just so impressed with how much he knew and how intelligently he could talk about the sport. And I got some sense, I think, Rick, of how you feel when you talk to me.
Well, Craig is an interesting cat. I can't wait for this interview. And folks listening, here is how I'm going to explain how this guy looks like. He is like Clark Kent. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about like Superman 2 and shit. When you have this big giant of a man that's looking at you with nicely combed hair and the big horn-rimmed glasses, and he's so cool. Man, it just blows my mind. What a guy!
We might have to get him a cape. I think he does claim to have the best hair in certainly maritime jiu-jitsu, if not even a broader scope. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be great to get Craig on the show. Not only because he's an interesting guy, and like I said, he does know an awful lot about the history of grappling and combat sports. But Craig is the guy who called for Global Combat Network the initial submission series event that we had here in Nova Scotia. And I'm from talking to Kat Clark, I hear he's going to be a voice of submission series in some format all the way through. Kat said that he was extremely happy with the relationship with Craig, and they're going to continue to work together as they grow that promotion, which is super exciting. Because of how much Craig knows about the jiu-jitsu world, just like we did when we turned the show over to Amy Pitt, we're going to turn the show over to Craig for a couple of episodes. He's going to bring on another really knowledgeable grappling expert, and they're going to interview a number of the people who are competing on these high-level jiu-jitsu events in the Maritimes. Because as I pointed out in the past, Rick, you and I have an interest in grappling, but we don't really have the expertise or the knowledge of the personalities involved at the high level of the sport to do it justice. So Craig very graciously has offered to take over the show for us for a few weeks to educate us and our listening audience on everything grappling related.
I love it, my man. This is what this show is all about. You know, my son does some refereeing pro wrestling, you know what I mean? And growing his career as a referee is very important to him. And when we look at the world of MMA, we've got a guy here who has a mind and a voice for the business. So we want to support him in his journey the same as we do every other athlete. That's what I'm digging.
Yep, absolutely. It's not just about the guys that are on the mats. As important it is for what they do. If no audience is showing up to watch these guys, no sponsors are helping them train and focus on their sport, then it's really going to be difficult for them to accomplish any goals outside of the Halifax area. So, yeah, super happy to promote all areas of the sport, not just the athletes. Skippy, have you been able to reach Craig yet? Mr. Skippy?
Oh, yeah, I told you, buddy, it's 4:20.
Oh, no. Look, sorry, I forgot to unmute the big mic. Yes, he's in queue. I just told Rick, because you weren't online yet, and I couldn't chat with you, so I told him, I said, hey, he's in queue.
Oh, I'm not seeing that. Anyway, you might have to open up another Facebook chat head here.
You got it. He's live right now, guys.
Craig,
hey, guys, how are you?
Very well. Don't know if you had a chance to hear my extremely long introduction of you a minute ago.
You said all sorts of nice things about me, although I have to deny I've never claimed to have the best hair in jiu-jitsu. In maritime jiu-jitsu, that goes to Chris White. Absolutely.
Oh, you know what? I think there's a couple of guys vying for that one right now, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you argue with Chris about his hair, you get footlocked. That's the problem.
You will. You'll get footlocked if you have any number of conversations with Chris. Okay, let's dig in and find out exactly who you are and what you're doing in the grappling jiu-jitsu MMA world right now. How did you get into the business of rolling around the mats with sweaty dudes?
Well, I did start wrestling. I heard you guys mention that, although it seemed like it was 100 years ago. 25 years ago, I started wrestling. When I was 14 and I was in high school, and I stuck with wrestling for about 6 years and was never very good at it, but I really, really liked it. And I grew up in Ontario. If anyone's involved in wrestling in Canada, they've probably heard of Harry Garris, who is the 10-time Canadian heavyweight champion and a 3-time Canadian Olympian and a legendary coach. I was very fortunate that he was my wrestling coach pretty much all through high school. I didn't really stick with it after I moved out to Nova Scotia for school, although I did sort of try out the wrestling club that was located at the Bloomfield Center that was run, I think, by Michael Heilman. I hope I've said that name right. And that club is where Bushido Kai also trained. So maybe 10 years later, when I was really out of shape and fat and not feeling super good about myself and looking for a way to get in shape, I had a kid on the way and I wanted to be a better role model. A friend of mine was doing jiu-jitsu at Bushido Kai, and he said, maybe I ought to come check this out. And I said, well, I sort of know that place. I used to go to wrestling there. Maybe I should go check it out. And that's how I got into submission grappling, which then led me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I've been doing now for about 9 years. So about 15 years total grappling experience.
And when did the judo start? Because if I'm not mistaken, just a month or so ago, you received your green belt in judo as well.
Yeah, I just started doing judo probably 2 or 3 years ago. I wish I could be more consistent with it, but I'm training with the Dalhousie Judo Club. I got lucky. I won a membership to Dalplex in a contest on Facebook, which is a funny way to go about it, but I won a membership, and I knew there was a judo club there, and I wanted to try it out as something different. It was great to, I was a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu at the time, but it was great to put on a white belt and go back to the beginning in judo. They have a terrific program at Dalhousie. They have fresh students come in every semester, and they're fresh white belts. Most have never done a martial art. Some people have never done a competitive sport before. And the people there, as a result, are really good teachers, the people who run that club, because they're used to dealing with total beginners, every September and January. And I'm lucky that, I live right close to Dalhousie, so it's pretty convenient for me, too.
And not just in grappling, something that I've noticed over the course of my life is there's a lot to be said for starting over, for not thinking you know the basics, for not just assuming you know the fundamentals and now you're going to do berimbolo and a whole bunch of fancy stuff, but starting back at the beginning. And judo, you can elaborate on this, but judo, while being extremely similar to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in many ways, also has its differences, whether it's because of the sport judo rules or the way the techniques were sort of canonized by Jigoro Kano and then sort of distilled into what we now call judo.
Yeah, well, I know one of the things that I think is the biggest difference is that, I say that the biggest difference in skill in jiu-jitsu is between a guy who knows absolutely nothing and a guy who's been training for like 3 months, right? A guy who's been training for 3 months or 6 months will absolutely wreck shop on a guy who has no training at all, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In judo, the learning curve is longer and steeper. It takes a lot of something, it just takes a lot of putting all the moves together before you're actually going to land like a big hip throw on someone. You have to add a lot of the pieces together. And I think that, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that the way that judo is organized in terms of what you learn in the low belts is that it's done in a way that's easier for uke to learn, easier for the person who's taking the throw. So foot sweeps and things that are actually quite difficult techniques to perform at a high level are actually the easiest falls to take. So you learn them at the beginning. Does that make sense? And then you progress on to like hip throws and stuff at the middle belts.
Because
so those are the throws.
Is falling more so than being physically picked up and thrown.
Yeah, the hip throws are harder throws to take, but more intuitive throws to perform. So you don't learn those sort of until the middle belts.
Sure,
but
how
as
about
I say,
when it hits the ground? Because a lot of people who listen to this show who are MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu followers may not realize that the newaza or ground fighting portion of judo is in some instances remarkably similar to the techniques that you would see in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but they're conducted in a slightly different fashion because I think in competition in judo you only have 20 seconds to work on the ground as opposed to 5 or 7 minutes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I think that, and I haven't done a judo competition yet, but I'm hoping to do one soon. I think that as long as you're maintaining forward progress, like I think if you're inside the guard, you get about 20 seconds. But, if you're actively working to pass the guard, or of course if you've gotten past the guard, then you're working towards a pin or a submission. So then there's no clock at that point. I could be wrong in that. I think your daughter's involved with judo, right? You might have a better idea about that than I do.
Yeah, I was referring more to the pin. It's once the pin is on, there's only 20 seconds, and then it's not really about the submission. It's about the pin, because if the 20 seconds expire and the person hasn't escaped, you don't need a submission because you receive a nippon and the match is over.
Right.
So it's either more of a frenetic pace for the submission, or it's a matter of get a dominant position and then simply hold.
There's different objectives, Ben. As someone who sort of spars regularly with people in judo and jiu-jitsu, I would say that the style of groundwork in judo is a little more rigid. It's a little more explosive. I think that there is a culture in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where they love to talk about things like not using strength and flow. And I think there's a culture in Judo where it's totally just fine to like blast through someone's guard with as much force as you can possibly muster. And I think that ticking clock, that kind of sense of like having to maintain forward momentum lends itself to that. And that's not meant as a criticism. I just think it's a different cultural thing, similarly to the way that there's real cultural difference between wrestling practices and jiu-jitsu practices, you know? If everybody in a jiu-jitsu, you won't make friends in a jiu-jitsu gym going as hard as people go at wrestling practices.
Right. Yeah, definitely a different intensity level, and I agree with what you're saying about how hard and fast they go in a in a judo grappling situation compared to jiu-jitsu, because it's the whole sort of keeping it playful in jiu-jitsu, and there's a lot of open guard and there's a lot of gi work. And when I did the few judo classes that I've done, when guys grabbed a hold of me, it felt like I was being grabbed by an iron vice, and a slab of concrete was being slapped on me. And that was something that I wasn't used to in the jiu-jitsu world, where it's much more about sort of flow and technique and movement.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's just doing different things with the same kind of techniques, you know, but it's a whole different approach. And I really think like a culture is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and we've promoted it before on this show, and I hope in the future we get to see more guys doing like you're doing and cross-training, because I think there's an awful lot for judoka to learn from jiu-jitsu players and vice versa.
Holy mackerel, I was checking it out. I was just looking at the Submission Series pro card that's coming up for June in Halifax, and there are at least 4 people with judo black belts competing in that event. And
interesting.
Yeah, so, you know, Mike Kitson, Jarrett McIntosh, Dan Koval from New York City is a Marcelo Garcia black belt and a judo black belt. And I think that Matt McGrath is a judo black belt as well.
He is indeed a judo black belt, long-time judo black belt, and received his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt recently as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Very interesting to see if the style of grappling that we see from those guys differs from the purely Jiu-Jitsu trained guys. That's going to be interesting to see in June at the Submission Series event. I do want to ask you a little bit about that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I do want to ask you a little bit about the fact that you travel quite a bit, whether it's sort of with your family or because of work, and you tend to train pretty much everywhere you travel, it would appear. Is that something that you sort of seek out on purpose, or is it just kind of by happenstance that you find yourself there and bored and training?
It's a little bit of both. You know, if you're going, you might as well pack a gi. But I think it's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu is that they really do welcome visitors. It's not something I've explored with judo, but as I understand, it's kind of the same. You know, my boss is a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, and we sometimes talk about that, those things as being similar. Like, I can go to a different town and go to this, you know, out-of-the-way club and put on my funny clothes and swap my secret handshakes with people, just like the Masons, and get to meet, you know, sort of like-minded people and have a good time. I'm lucky that I work in television production, and so I'm traveling a lot to shoot documentary TV programs for broadcasters like National Geographic, and sometimes I go to television market events in places like France and Washington, D.C. And so when I'm on the road, take a gi. If I get a chance, I shoot an email out to a place ahead of time. If I don't, sometimes I just knock on their door, and everybody's totally awesome. They just.
What are some of the highlights that you've had from the different places that you've trained? Are there some places that have really connected with you, or any experiences you had that really made you appreciate the fact that you did make that effort?
Yeah, I just got back from Maui in Hawaii, which is a place that I've been to 5 times now, and that's where we go for a family vacation because my wife's brother lives in Hawaii. Lucky guy. And luckily enough, we get to go visit him. And there's a club called Maui Jiu-Jitsu that I've now trained at every belt. And I was just in Maui for a month, and I must have trained 15 times there. I love that place. The instructor is a legend of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu named Luis Heredia, his nickname is Limão, which means lemon. and he was Shane Rice's first teacher under Rickson, I think. I think he was the main instructor at the Rickson Gracie Academy in L.A. when Shane was living down there. Lamau is like a 6-time Pan Am champion. He was in the Gracie train that walked Hoist Gracie to the cage at UFC 1. If people watch the documentary about Rickson Gracie called Choke, you see Lamau over and over again in that documentary running Rickson's academy. Just a guy who's, been there for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America since day one, has a very thoughtful approach to teaching, and has a style of jiu-jitsu like it's problematic when you start talking about things as being like pure or close to the source, or I know people love to say that stuff. I struggle for any other description of Luis's jiu-jitsu. It's just so clean and so focused on the details that make the fundamentals work, and I feel like I'm checking in at home base when I go visit his gym and train with him, because I did so much of my white belt training with Shane Rice. I love that Rickson Gracie style of jiu-jitsu, and when I go train with Lima, I really feel like I'm checking in, touching base with that. So that's absolutely my favorite place to train outside of Titans Fitness Academy in Bears Lake.
Cool. And what you're referring to there is something that's, in listening to previous episodes of this show, that I got a sense of, but I didn't appreciate at the time, was hearing a similar conversation with Shane Rice that we did way back in the early days of the show, when he was talking about that sort of close to the source, direct from Rickson type of training that he had, and how in many places it is very different now. I do want to ask you, you're a brown belt now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got my brown belt in September.
You're a bit of an enigma because you're not one of these guys that I see around the gym like a Josh Presley or a Wincy. These guys who are going off to Abu Dhabi trials and New York and Boston and sort of save their money and going off to international competitions wherever they are. But you're also not like myself. You're not a once or twice a week guy who's training for some fun fitness and entertainment. You're much more serious than that. Sort of where are you on your jiu-jitsu journey, and sort of where's your focus, or what is your focus right now?
I just want to be like a student of the game, and I just want to give back where I can. I competed quite a bit at blue belt. I guess I did all the local tournaments. Everybody makes choices in life, and I didn't start jiu-jitsu until I was in my 30s. I'm about, or until I was about 30. I'm just about to turn 40 this year. So I'm not in a position in my life where I can just pack up and go to go to a couple tournaments back to back and be gone for like a week or two. I do travel quite a bit for recreation, but I spend that time with my family. I have a goal this year of entering the Masters Worlds in Las Vegas, September 25th and 26th, I believe. And so that's my goal. I'm trying to get down to 208 pounds, which would be the lightest I've ever been in my adult life to enter that tournament. And I got to get a start on that because I've been slow start on my diet, Boyd. So, I don't see competition being like a huge thing for me. I've done a bit. I've had a taste. I like to help teach the kids class a little bit at Titans. I do put in a lot of time. Like, I go train.
You do put in a lot of time. You're on the mats, man. You must be on the mats 5 or 6 days a week between judo and jiu-jitsu.
No, I'm at Titans 4 days a week. 2 of those nights I go to judo right after. So if every one of those Titans classes is 2 hours, and then I do 4 hours, and then I have mats in my house too. So I'm like 12 to 14 hours a week on the mat, which is pretty good, right? I mean,
yeah,
if you're holding down a job and having a family.
You're working on that 10,000 hours rule, I think, over a 10-year period.
Yeah, something like it. I wish that all the wrestling I had done when I was younger paid off a bit more. Like, I wish I had not had a 10-year hiatus in between, because I think I would be getting a lot. I would have progressed a lot faster if I still had a solid wrestling base. But you can lose those things if you don't use it.
Absolutely.
I have a decent arm drag, and that's about it.
I want to steer the conversation in a different direction for a little bit, because what some people may not know is you're actually an award-winning filmmaker as well, and I want you to talk a little bit about how you got involved in film, and sort of you can segue that into television, because it's going to lead us into what you're doing now for Submission Series and the Abhaya tournament as well. But tell us a little bit about your filmmaking journey, and definitely highlight Hope for Wildlife, because that's such an important part not only of your story but of the Nova Scotia film story.
Yeah, I've never, it's funny, like, people use film and television interchangeably in the industry. I've almost never worked in film, although I did appear in a film. I appeared in the film Treevenge, if anybody is familiar with that, from Jason Eisner.
Look it up.
Yeah, who directed Hobo with a Shotgun. But I work in television. I have a Bachelor of Journalism. I used to be a TV news reporter, so it's kind of a funny way to come into the TV industry. A lot of people come from film, and I happen to come from the TV journalism side. I was a TV news reporter, and there was nationwide newsroom cutbacks, and I was looking for something else, and I found this amazing production company in downtown Halifax called Arcadia Entertainment that I didn't know existed. But it turns out I had a friend who worked there as a researcher. At the time, they were producing a show called Go Deep, ocean adventure documentary stuff for History Channel Canada. Also airs on Smithsonian in the U.S. under the name Hydrotech. And they were looking for some. It's funny, like, it sounds like a dream. When I went in for the job, they said, "Well, we might need you to go to Copenhagen in 6 weeks. Do you think you could go to Copenhagen for us?" I said, "What do you need me to do there?" They said, "What do you need me to do there?" They said, "Well, there's this guy. He's making the world's largest homemade submarine, and and he's about to launch it. And it sounds like a crazy story." And got lucky, and went and directed. That was my first documentary, and it was a 1-hour TV documentary for the Go Deep strand called Sub Shop, about a guy in Copenhagen who built the world's largest homemade submarine. Just a guy with a crazy dream, and he pulled it off and built this 40-ton machine. Now he's trying to become the first person to shoot himself into space on a homemade rocket now, which is he's a guy that. A really incredible guy named Peter Madsen, who I really admire his spirit and determination, because he's doing this stuff with no money and just the help of people who believe in him. It's a really an incredible story. That trip was probably the first time that I ever trained on the road, too. I went and trained at CSA gym in Copenhagen, which is the home of, I think the guy's name is Christian Graugert, and he's the BJJ globetrotter who wrote the book. And so, I think it's funny that I sort of kicked off my own experience with that, with the guy who's sort of the original BJJ globetrotter. So I've been working in TV for about 7 years now, and I write and direct a TV series called Hope for Wildlife. Do other work too.
Give people the elevator pitch on what Hope for Wildlife is, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this who probably aren't aware of it, and it certainly is something that they should go check out if they could.
Sure. Hope for Wildlife is a story about, is a TV series, a documentary TV series about a remarkable woman named Hope Swinimer, who operates an organization called Hope for Wildlife on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia. She helps about 3,000 injured and orphaned wild animals every year. Her and her team of volunteers mostly, take in injured and orphaned animals. They have a veterinarian named Dr. Barry who helps patch them up, and if everything works out, they release them back into the wild. You get to hear the stories of these people who are working really hard. You get to see some of the animals that we have in the Nova Scotia wilderness, and you get to kind of ride alongside, see this world that you would never know existed. As they there's a lot of ups and downs to this story. Sometimes the animals don't make it. Sometimes it's really hard, but there's always hope, is what they say. They're just really incredible stories. I've been doing it for 6 years now. It airs on Love Nature, which used to be called Oasis, is the home of it in Canada. It also airs on the Knowledge Network in BC and on 26 other channels around the world right now. This is amazing to get fan mail from Thailand, and from Turkey.
Fan mail. You actually get people showing up. You actually get people showing up in Nova Scotia from all over the world, specifically to go visit the center. Correct?
It's incredible. They've gone from not being open to the public at all, no demand to have them open to the public, to now receiving 10,000 visitors a year. And they're in Seaforth, Nova Scotia, which is, if people are familiar with Lawrencetown, you just keep driving along that road to where you kind of think there's nothing. And if you look on the left-hand side, you see this little farm, like with a little red barn. And now they have, of course, signage and stuff that says Hope for Wildlife. But I used to drive by it all the time and never know it was there. They help, everything from a mouse to a moose, eagles to seagulls, sparrows to bobcats.
Did you write that line?
All the lines. Yeah, I've written all the lines. Did you give
yourself a kapow when you wrote that one? That's the big question.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's an extremely creatively satisfying job. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And
okay,
yeah, I'm super excited to be part of it.
Let's figure out how you got from that to, number one, commentating mixed martial arts, and now becoming what it appears to be the voice of Submission Series Pro, submission-only grappling tournament, and the IBJJF rules Abhaya Open tournament. Is that something that you're really looking to delve into? It seems like you're putting an awful lot of time and effort into commentating and calling these events.
I'm willing to take it as far as it goes, because it started out small.
How does it happen?
It started with, I saw that, this is going to sound silly, I saw that Dan Vanderlands was doing it. He was commentating, and Dan's a good friend of mine, so I don't think he'll be mad when I said to myself, man, if Dan can do it, I can do it. And I contacted Kat, who I didn't know, and I said, look, I want to help. Just let me know how I can help. I have lots of experience in TV production and live events. I used to run a bar. I was saying to Skippy when I was in the queue, I used to run a bar downtown Halifax called the Khyber. I probably put on 1,200 live music shows when I was in my 20s. So I have lots of live event experience. I'm okay on the microphone. I like to be on camera. I'm a attention whore. With the need to be in front of people, and I can get a decent haircut. And he was nice enough to just say, sure, come on out. And he had planned for someone else to do the ring announcing, and that person had a conflict. And so I said, well, let me do that too. And it turns out that that's sort of, where I was more naturally comfortable. And it looks like that's what I'm going to continue in that role as the ring announcer, doing the introductions and doing the post-fight interviews for Submission Series for broadcast on the web and on Eastlink, and who knows what the future could hold. We see submission events now on the Fight Network and more and more online services.
Are we going to see any Bruce Buffer 180s or 360s or anything like that?
No, but if anyone has an idea for a catchphrase, let me know. If anybody has an idea for a catchphrase, I'm thinking
we'll put out the call right now. Fans of the BS show, Craig Ferguson looking for a We Rollin' / It's Time catchphrase for Submission Series Pro. So jump on Facebook, jump on Twitter. Let's hear your suggestions.
I was super excited when the fighters from Submission Series all seemed like really pumped up to have gotten the intros. I know, I sort of ad-libbed, calling Joel Jackard the Y-Town Strangler, which is what we call him around the gym.
My favorite moment of that event was you calling him the Y-Town Strangler and him standing there 10 seconds away from fighting Michael Tremblay, looking like he was going to cry.
Yeah, I mean, that was a terrific moment, and even calling it Nasty Nate and just calling him, that's what we call him around the gym, and I couldn't even offhand tell you Nathan's last name because that's how people call him, And I think Nate. When I was talking to those guys backstage, and I was like, what do you want to do for introductions? What do you want to do for nicknames? Everyone's so humble and nice, and you were backstage, Boyd. You saw that whole atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the guys who were fighting each other were sitting down helping each other stretch in the back room, for God's sake.
Yeah, it was really remarkable. It's not the kind of thing you're going to see. MMA is awesome and has its own energy, but it's not the kind of thing you're going to see at an MMA event.
Cool.
And the crowd's reaction was amazing.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the next one and how that evolves, because the first event was truly awesome. I got a chance to sit in the audience as well as backstage for a while, and it was a really, really super event. I'm looking forward to the upcoming one. I knew we weren't going to have any trouble eating up some time with you covering where you come from, and I did announce before you came on air that you are going to be taking over the show, probably bringing on a guest host if you like, and definitely getting some of these big names in the sport who are going to be competing on these upcoming Submission Series Pro events on here, so you can have a in-depth conversation with them about their history and about their game and about their strategy, a conversation that Rick and I just are not really in a position to have. So thank you for that, and I really look forward to hearing the shows that you're going to be able to do with those guys.
Awesome, and you have Jon Foster on later to talk about Abhaya. Is that right, tonight?
Yeah, actually, I'd like for you to stick around if you can, and probably ride out the rest of the show with us, and pop in and perhaps even chat a bit with Jon. I will turn you over to Rick Doyle to see if he has anything that he wants to ask you, because you mentioned the Freemasons a moment ago, and I will warn you, Rick is completely and utterly addicted to the Freemasons and has conspiracy theories aplenty about their dealings.
I cannot wait.
Craig, thanks very much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Rick. Love seeing your last fight. It was a pleasure to call.
Thank you. Listen, brother, this is what we're down to. I sat back here tonight and just absolutely loved your story, loved listening to you. But we've had other guests on hold tonight I really want to get on the show, and it's too bad because I really, really want to talk to you so much. And about different things. You mentioned Chris White, too. I was really dying to talk about that guy tonight, but I don't want to be disrespectful to these other guys. Boyd is a bit of an amateur, unlike yourself and myself. But
don't let me make anybody wait, Rick.
What I want to do is I want to thank you for what you're doing for this sport, because you live the lifestyle and you understand it and you train in it. And to sit back and listen to you call a fight or call a match, it's awesome because you understand what you're talking about. And not only are you able to see it, you're able to relay it to the viewer. So when I was sat back and I've watched some of your stuff now, it's awesome because you're seeing something before I'm seeing it, and you're telling me to look for it, and I absolutely love it. And I hope you progress in this, and I hope this takes you to great places because you're the type of person that we need to grow this sport, especially in this area. So thank you.
That's very kind of you, Rick. Thank you.
And the next place you're going to get a chance to hear Craig is at the Abhaya Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament taking place this coming Saturday. The organizer for that event is a longtime friend of the show, a guy we've had on a number of times, Jon Foster. Jon, sorry for making you wait, brother. How you doing?
No worries, buddy. I was just listening in. Good show so far.
How is the tournament coming together? I know you last year had a fantastic turnout, very, very smoothly run tournament as always. How is it shaping up for this year?
Shaping up really well, Boyd. I think this is going to be the best one yet. I expect more competitors than ever. A couple new additions this year with the backdrop for medal winners, for photographs. Obviously having Eastlink come in and shoot the advanced divisions with Craig on the play-by-play is going to be an added addition. And I mean, the T-shirts came out ridiculous. I'm pumped, man. It's going to be good.
So how is the day going to flow? Are you going to start with sort of the real little kids off in the morning and then sort of progress up through age, weight, and belt as the day goes on?
So we'll start the kids' matches at 10 o'clock, and then at 11 we'll push them down to a couple mats to finish off what is left. They'll probably run till about 1 o'clock, but that hour gap between them starting and the adults starting really knocks off a pile of their divisions and gets them out of there with their parents a little earlier, which is good for them. Adults start at 11, the women's division, the junior division, and all the men's divisions, masters, and each belt level. And what we'll do is we'll divide up the the brackets between the tables, and then we'll do first match, cross the brackets, and then come back and do second match, third match. Because I see a problem, and we did this last year, and it ran smoothly, and it worked well. You don't end up with the guys that show up for weigh-ins, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they're waiting till 4 or 5 in the afternoon for their first match. This way, everyone, gets appropriate amount of rest. Everyone gets their matches started without it being too late in the day, and things run smoothly, and then we can just knock off brackets as they come all day long. And last year we ended up finishing off almost every table very close to the same amount of time, so you don't end up as well with one bracket running out of mat and the rest of them, being done a long time beforehand. Right. So I think it'll be good, man. It's the most efficient way I can think of it.
Is this going to be the first time that you've aired on? I think is it Eastlink, the local cable network that's going to air the event, and is it a live thing? Is it a stream thing? And is it on Eastlink television? Sort of how is that going to work?
It is the first time. The idea is that they're going to shoot footage and audio, obviously, with all the purple and brown belt divisions. So they'll shoot those matches all day, and they'll be talking to the athletes and doing the play-by-play and all that. And then they're going to cut together a program to be aired at a later date. So that was from what I understand, the same format they used for Submission Series, and they're cutting that together. They're going to do the same thing with the Abhaya Open, and then it'll air as actually like a program on Eastlink television down the road. That's the idea. That's what we've discussed, and let's hope it all works out well. It's exciting, man. I mean, it could be huge exposure for the sport. Hopefully it'll bring more students into the gyms, and then turn more athletes into the tournaments, and we can just blow Jiu-Jitsu up even bigger in the Maritimes. I mean, it's fantastic, the amount of clubs and the amount of support and just the interest in Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, I've been doing this tournament for about 8 years now, and each year it's grown. And the last few years it's been just exponential.
Craig, are you still on the line? Do you know anything else
Yes.
about the Eastlink plans?
No, that sounds about right. And that is the approach that they took at Submission Series, where they the feed that people heard on the internet won't be heard. That commentary, I think they went and redid the commentary, and we'll have the clean interviews from afterwards. But I think that's the plan. We're going to call the matches as they go. We're going to do some interviews afterwards. I think they have their own a woman who's hosting and announcing. So that'll be interesting, and I think she's going to play sort of the role of the every person, who maybe hasn't seen Jiu-Jitsu before, and asks the sort of question the viewers might be asking as they follow along. They do a great job on local sports, Eastlink. It's going to be great.
Yeah, this sport is new to them, so with Submission Series and with the Abhaya Open, we're really hoping we can, not just open everyone else's eyes, but Eastlink's eyes as well, and they're kind enough to come in and give it a shot and see what they can do with it. So the more familiar they become with it, and the way the tournaments operate, and the way the submission-only shows operate, I mean, it's only going to increase, what they're able to do with it, I'm sure.
I know last year you did at least one special match. Are you planning anything like that for this season, or are you just going to let the brackets play out however they would?
Yeah, no, we're going to let the brackets play out this year. We had an awesome super match last year, there's no question. Kat's doing super matches on the big stage now. And, we're just going to run our matches. We're going to have all levels right up to purple and brown belt divisions. I mean, every match pretty well in the blue belt, the purple belt, and the brown belt divisions is a super match. These days, the amount of talent. So, no, we're going to cut that out. That moves 30 minutes, back on when we finish our day, and we leave the super matches to the pros over at Sub-Series.
Can I just say I know one match I'm looking forward to, because it seems like last year my favorite match at Abhaya was Jesse Allen versus Scott Noss, and if that match if that rematch happens, that's going to be one to watch out for.
Yeah, that's quite possible, no question. We'll see.
I think Scott's always come out with his hand raised in those matches, but I know that Jesse just looks better and better every time every time I see him. I competed against both of them at Abhaya last year, and they're both just top shelf guys for this area, and that'll be a match.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one for
cool,
sure.
It's actually cool, John, that you pointed out about the sort of the special matches at Submission Series, because that's one thing that Submission Series has done that is sort of a bracketed tournament doesn't necessarily do, and that's build the characters of the people who are competing in these events. Guys who train in a particular gym know the guys who train in their gym, and if you go to open rolls and whatnot, or if you compete enough, you know who the really top shelf guys are in the various gyms. But something like Submission Series and something like the BS Show, where we're able to talk to a few of these guys on the radio, is really teaching people sort of who they are and allowing people to get invested in their stories and to follow them, which makes it even more exciting when you see them in an open tournament like yours.
I agree. Yeah, it's very cool, and maybe we'll see a swing to higher attendance for spectators this year. I mean, the difference with Submission Series is it's totally based on entertainment and selling tickets, where our tournament's completely based on the athletes and the competition, and the spectators are, secondary to that, of course. Not saying we don't welcome spectators, of course we do. We've had in the hundreds the last couple of years with I think we had probably 350, 400 spectators last year, friends, family, parents, whatever it may be. So yeah, absolutely, and I think that having things like Eastlink, like if they do show the purple and brown belt divisions between this year's tournament and next year's tournament, people are going to start to know who these athletes are from either that or Submission Series or MMA events or whatever, and that might be something that'll draw larger crowds out. I mean, if these events could get to what it was like when I played high school hockey in Newfoundland, I mean, the place was always packed and it was a blast, right?
Absolutely. Mr. Doyle, welcoming you to jump in for a minute.
Well, it'd be the first time tonight, Boyd. Thanks so much.
Sorry, buddy. I don't mean to make you jealous.
You kind of hurt my feelings.
Craig does have better hair than you.
I know, and I'm starting to think that you and Craig are just having a little something behind my back here. It's starting to hurt my feelings.
In cahoots.
John, welcome to the show, brother, and I just have to take my hat off to what you're doing down there. I know you've been at it for like 8 years now. You got this thing going before I obviously was around in this sport, and year after year, because your love of BJJ, you've put this thing on, and I really take my hat off to you for that.
Appreciate that, Rick. Absolutely.
So as a promoter's point of view, I mean, you've been doing this for years. There's not a lot of money that goes in your pocket. We've looked at Submission Series and we say, okay, that appeals to the general public. That appeals to people that don't understand the point system or the true grappling. They need to draw their fans in. What can we do to help you make money so you can continue this tournament? Do you need the general public to show up? Do you need all the gyms to show up? Do you need people from the gym to bring friends along? What can we do to help you?
You know what? I think the greatest area of growth we could get into would be obviously the competitors. The more competitors we have, the better that is. I'd love to see the Abhaya Open, running 10 mats, and having the referees to do that, and having the space to do that, and having the competitors to make that legitimate. Have the entire thing pre-registered, like the larger IBJJF tournaments in Toronto or Montreal or down in the U.S. in New York and Boston. Sponsorships, the more brands we can attach to it, and then legitimacy for attaching their name to it, and for prizes and gear for the athletes as well. I think we could attract higher level guys, and maybe even have a black belt division in a couple of years. I mean, there's a growing number of black belts in the Maritimes, and I'd really love it if the tournament could get to the point where we would draw from the U.S. and Ontario and Quebec, like we get the scattered guy, but like the way people travel from here to other places, if other places started traveling here, and it really became an East Coast like battleground for who's the top dogs, right? And I feel like we've become that in Atlantic Canada. People are excited, and they're coming out to the Abhaya Open to prove what's up, and the gyms show up, and you know, from local and around the Maritimes to prove who's got the best guys and what's happened the last year as far as their progress. And I'd love to see Maine and Boston and Ontario, and like I said, those other places start to come in and get it to the point where we're just, you know, blowing it up. You know, I mean,
okay,
I
so Jon,
we'll for sure sit 200 this year, and I'd love to hit 400 or 500 in 2 or 3 more years, right?
Okay, Jon. So the best way that we can help you, as a guy that needs to take the money out of his wallet and pay all the bills for the building and the help and the security and blah, 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 all these expenses, the best way we can help you is to say, everybody sign up. That's the best way for this tournament. Is that how we can help you?
Absolutely, yeah. Whether it's athletes or gyms finding out about it, and you know, just realizing like there's top competition here, and you know, winning a division at the Abhaya Open really means something. Or if it's like I said, attaching sponsors and brands to it that help with prizes and expenses, and then that's it, straight up. You know,
when does registration?
Just putting the word out, man. That's what it's all about,
close,
really.
Jon? When does registration close for this coming weekend?
Registration will be the day of. We still do day of registrations.
So
I mean, there is a registration
form on Saturday morning. If somebody decides Saturday morning they want to, they can come right in.
Exactly. And I mean, I'll put it out there. I'm thinking next year I might try to do pre-registration only. Last year I put it out there kind of halfway and said, let's do some pre-registrations, and I only got a couple, so this year I didn't even bother. So everything will be that morning, right? Weigh-ins and registrations start at 8 a.m., and everyone shows up, fills out their form, pays their entrance fee, gets their shirt, and weighs in. They're added to the bracket afterwards. But if next year, we'll see. Next year, maybe the year after, it's something that's on my radar, and it's finding the time and the you know, if the timing's right, and me having the time to put it together. If we did pre-registration, had the brackets put together ahead of time, and then everyone would just need to weigh in. There's some logistics there that I need to sort out, but that would be phenomenal, and that would save, of course, a lot of time in the mornings.
Nice. Well, I want to take a step away from the tournament for a second for you to share with us some exciting work that you're working on for fighters and grappling athletes in a broader sense. And it's something that I saw pop up in my my social media feed just a few weeks ago, and hadn't even realized that you were involved with it. It's called Us Mentality. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, who's starting it up, and what your goals are?
Yeah, so Us Mentality is a project we've been working on for a few months now with Brian Byrne. He trains up at Zombie Proof in Cape Breton. He's also the lead singer for I, Mother Earth. So, you know, real good guy. We met actually grappling. He showed up in my gym one night to train, and we trained and hit it off, and we've been working together ever since. We're creating an online platform for industry pros, whether it be jiu-jitsu coaches or boxing coaches, professional fighters, nutrition, sports psychologists, strength and conditioning, all aspects of combat sports. We're creating a live online platform where they can teach private lessons or give expert advice and create an extra income from it. So the Us Mentality, our role, of course, is exposure and marketing and building the infrastructure, developing the vendors and their businesses, and you know, recruiting new instructors, bringing people in, guest spots, whatever it may be. It'll be ever evolving. We've got a pile of ideas. The support so far online and in the community locally has been phenomenal. And we're really pushing it, man. We kick off with our Indiegogo campaign tomorrow. That'll be our first push at funding. That'll finish development of the online platform for teaching lessons, and start marketing, kick off that, and get us outside of social media. And then we're just going to keep going from there, keep pushing. So it's really coming together, man, and it's phenomenal. Some of the talent we've got on board already, and the partners we're working with. I mean, we're working with Hayabusa, Headrush, Bain Mouth Guards, and Rockwell Watches. those companies were awesome. They came on board. They're providing perks for the crowdfunding campaign that starts tomorrow. The perks are ridiculous. Like we've got Hayabusa Pro Gis and Rockwell watches you can buy standalone, and then we've got sliding percentages on the online retailers. I mean, if you're in the market for a Hayabusa or a Head Rush or a Rockwell watch, I mean, your perk's free, basically. So super excited about that. We're doing an 80-20 split with the instructors. I don't think there's anything in the world that pays its staff, or not staff, but I mean, if there's a fighter working for a promotion, I guarantee they're not getting, 80% of the cut even split amongst everybody on the card. So the 20% we take obviously goes to facilitate hospitality, does the marketing, the exposure, like I mentioned, and the fighter takes 80%. So I mean, if you're a guy fighting every 3 months, or you're getting a couple fights a year, whatever you can get in between injuries, and getting good matchups and guys not pulling out, this is a way so you can make some money while you're in the gym. You're teaching lessons, and you're paying the bills, and you're spending more time expanding your knowledge and on the mats and working towards your goal of fighting professionally. Jiu-Jitsu guys, same thing. There's a way to make some income, and then as a athlete or as a competitor, you have access to information that is may not be easily accessible, like the sports psychology and like the nutrition advice you can pick up from professionals online. It's the next level kind of things that the guys that are really serious need to be involved in as the sport evolves. Of course, nutrition is a major factor, and mental training is now becoming, I think, a major factor in combat sports training. So if you're a guy in rural Nova Scotia and you don't have access to those things, and you're fighting a guy from Ontario or somewhere in the U.S. with a larger population, we're going to close that gap, and we're going to create an income source for all the people that make the industry happen and the sport happen.
I love it, man.
At the same time.
I think it's an incredibly creative use of the technology, and it's a great way to connect people. And I mean, jiu-jitsu and grappling, more than anything else that I've been exposed to, seems to be something that really is high on sharing information. Very seldom have I found myself talking to grapplers or anywhere where there was a mat, where there wasn't somebody willing to show something, share something, compare technique. So I definitely think it's a model that could fly, and I wish you all the best, and we'll certainly on this show help you promote that any way we can. I do have a question, though. Are you going to have anything in place to sort of moderate what these coaches are doing to make sure I'm sure you're going to attract a lot of good people, but if you do attract a snake oil salesman or whatever, is there some means that you're going to use to sort of moderate what they're sharing with their audience to ensure that it is good people and that it is good information, that people are getting their dollar value?
Absolutely. I mean, every instructor is going to be pre-screened. It's not an automatic setup. Like if I could go in and log in as an instructor, say I'm a black belt, be a white belt, and start just banking cash. It's not going to work like that at all. Every single instructor is going to be pre-screened manually and entered that way, so we can keep up on, obviously the level of talent that we have representing host mentality. But also we're going to have rating systems and comment options in place so that if someone does teach a lesson, that student's going to have an opportunity to give their honest opinion on it, give a comment, give a rating. And then those people, if there's someone out there that slips through the cracks, and, I mean, the sky's the limit. If we get to 1,000 instructors in a few years, we don't know. Maybe one bad one gets on there, but maybe we catch that, in the first lesson or the second lesson, because the person that takes the lesson says, "The guys, this is ridiculous. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." Gets a terrible rating and the comments. So I mean, I think that's the best way to moderate that. We can't obviously fly all over the world and train with these guys personally and test them out.
Unless you're Craig Ferguson, apparently.
If they're not on, what's that? Lester, yeah.
I said unless you're Craig
exactly.
Ferguson.
I wish, right?
Apparently.
Yeah, we'll just send Craig. Figure out where he's to and see what they're at. So
he can bring back all the secrets.
That's the idea. That's right. Yeah, we'll just hire him and he can go on host mentality and everyone can pick his brain. So that's it, man. I mean, this campaign's going off tomorrow. We've been pushing that hard. We've got the promo video up on YouTube now. Tomorrow morning it'll go live, and the link to that'll work. Awesome. And we've been pushing hard for the last couple of weeks on social media. I mean, if you haven't seen it, and you're probably not on social media,
or you don't care about grappling.
Yeah, exactly. You don't care about combat sports or any of that stuff.
Okay, buddy. Well, I know there's going to be a long burn. It'll be a long burn on this one, and I'm sure we'll talk to you more about it as this project grows. But I will give you an extra couple of minutes here now to give the final shout out for the Abhaya tournament coming up this weekend. Let people know where it is, when it is, and how they can get involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, the Abhaya tournament, the Abhaya Open Grappling Championships is at the King's Edge Hill School in Windsor. It'll be this Saturday. Weigh-in start at 8, finish at 10 sharp, hopefully. And then we move on to the kids' matches and then the adult matches at 11. The Abhaya Open this year is sponsored by Submission Series. Cat's been fantastic. We've been back and forth for weeks. He's been helping promote and really push that, and he's going to be there with prizes and merchandise and all that good stuff from Submission Series. BC Kimonos, big shout out to those guys. They've donated 4 gis to the winners, so we're going to have 1 for the kids division and 3 for the adult division. The gold medalists will have their name drawn for those. Valley Credit Union, again, huge supporter of local sports, and then they've come on board and they've been fantastic to me over the years as a business in the Valley. And of course, OS Mentality, we're going to be representing OS there at the tournament this weekend. Everyone's getting a gi patch, and we're really hoping to put a bump into this campaign that kicks off tomorrow. And the OS Mentality sponsors, if you don't mind me mentioning again, are Hayabusa. Hayabusa's been fantastic. Like I said, they've been generous enough to do sliding scale promos on our Indiegogo perks, up to 40% off at their store, and they're donating pro comp gis as well. Head Rush brand is sponsoring us. They're doing a discount on all our perks. Rockwell Watches has sent watches as standalone perks that you can purchase, as well as up to a 40% discount off of their store, which is crazy. And Vane mouth guards. If you guys haven't looked into Vane mouth guards, Vane protective gear before, they've got a G-force technology built into their mouth guards. So if the head impact on the athlete, either football, hockey, or fighting, is high enough that it could cause brain damage, there's a capsule that breaks in the mouth guard. It's quite fascinating, and so it'd be an obvious indicator that maybe you should go get looked at. So safety in mind there with those guys. They're really, really up in the game in the mouth guard business, and they've donated a pile of mouth guards. If brains
weren't already scrambled, I would suggest you get one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, these guys have all been huge supporters, like you guys. Like, they get the idea. We see a place in the industry where we can really help the athletes, and our hashtag on Twitter, all the last couple of weeks is hashtag Fighters Helping Fighters, and that's really where this came from, and that's really what we want to make happen. So tomorrow, as soon as we kick off tomorrow, igg.me/@at/OS-mentality, and we'll be all over that the next couple of days. And can't thank you guys enough for getting me on here. By Open, OS Mentality. Awesome. I mean, just big things happening. It's been a crazy, exciting week for me, no question.
Thanks, John. Good luck on the tournament this weekend, and we look forward to chatting with you and possibly getting Brian on to talk a little bit more about your plans for the future.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
All right, take care.
Cheers. Craig, over to you for a second. Are you still with us?
I'm still here. I have major exciting news about the Abhaya tournament.
Yeah. I mean, that tournament is a fantastically run event. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Any idea what you're going to do when we turn over the keys to you for a couple of weeks? What do you have in mind for the BS show, all grappling content?
I'm working on, first of all, a roundup of what happens at Abhaya this weekend. I was just starting to say I have major exciting news, and major exciting personal news for me is I won't be competing at the Abhaya tournament, but my 8-year-old daughter is going to enter. So awesome. I'm excited to talk about that. and a little bit about my first experience as a jiu-jitsu stage parent. We'll see how that goes. I think that we're going to see. I'm trying to round up Dan Koval, who's going to be appearing on Submission Series. Probably bad form to mention a guest before you have him confirmed. We just had a little email exchange. But if not Dan, someone else from the Submission Series card. Cat Clark has promised to do everything he can to help us get some people from the Submission Series card on, and we're going to talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the Maritimes, and also try to bring in some MMA talk for you guys. I know that's your focus.
Good stuff, and we can't forget we do have the Numa Cup from Nova United Martial Arts taking place on May 2nd. That's probably one of the larger judo competitions in Nova Scotia these days. They had, I think, 250 competitors last year. I think they're expecting about the same, or even hopefully a few more this time around. So looking forward to that event as well. You said you were thinking about maybe throwing on the gi and actually competing in that one. Are you going to be able to make that work, do you think?
I'm just looking into that, whether, one, it works for my schedule, and two, if my Judo Nova Scotia membership is expired or not, and how I can renew it. So, yeah, Judo's on hiatus at Doyle for exams right now, too, so I'm kind of out of the loop. But I'd be excited to go compete. You know, now that I've got my green belt, you compete all the way up to black. And I probably wasn't sure how I felt about competing, like where I have a lot of grappling experience and competing against like white, yellow, and orange belts. It seemed like maybe it wouldn't be fair, but you're not allowed to use submissions below green belt. Now, at green belt, all the submissions are open, but you're competing against judo black belts. So
wow,
probably evens things up a bit.
Yeah, that's quite a range.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm an old man,
Good
so
stuff,
I just
man.
make the decisions at the last minute.
Yeah, see how the whole body is feeling. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Craig, and look forward to checking in on the show and over the next couple of weeks and hearing everything that you guys have to share about Submission Series and the Abhaya recap. So you have a wonderful evening, and I'll jump over with my buddy Rick and wrap this one up.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Rick.
mate.
Rick, you said you were itching to jump onto some other news. What's that?
Well, nothing really. I'm still reeling from this show, honestly. You imagine trying to do a show when I suddenly find out you have a mistress that has been on, sitting in the queue the entire show. I mean, this has been a difficult one for me to get through. Jon Foster is up to some pretty cool things, man, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck. Listen, the best way we can help that guy is to get out there and sign up for that tournament. So I'll challenge you, you son of a bitch. If you go down and sign your name up there on Saturday, I'll go down and sign mine up.
Cool. I've been back and forth on whether or not I was going to compete at the Abhaya tournament, and I've gotten crazy busy at work, and we had family in town, so I haven't been training a whole lot, but I did get my first stripe on my white belt at class the other night, so maybe that's a sign that I should throw my hat in the ring. I do know for the first time ever, the Abhaya tournament is opening a Masters division, and Masters doesn't mean people who are really good. It just means people who are really old. So we'd get an opportunity to go down and compete against some white belts and possibly some blue belts who are over 30. So at the very least, we won't have to try keeping up with those rubber-jointed kids.
Well, yeah, let's give it a go. If that helps it out, we'll sign her name up there. I've only been in a gi once in my life, and that was to help you out there for your tournament. But hell, let's just sign up. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. I don't know about you, but I have a pretty lax approach to competitions at this point in my grappling career. So it's all about getting down there, enjoying the experience, having some fun, and testing myself. So I got no trouble.
You that blue belt last week, buddy. I was proud of you. You went after it. You didn't get it, but you went after it.
It was a great experience. I did learn a little. I discovered that you really should not get caught in a flying triangle, and it was worthwhile doing. I got to say, I was disappointed in my performance, but it was a great learning opportunity.
Congratulations
on the mat.
Congratulations to Tyler Lee on getting that win there and picking up his blue belt. Congratulations. And he took a ass whipping at the end of that. Did you see that guy's back from the belts?
Oh my God, yeah. They definitely
made
sure he remembered his blue belt.
Yeah, he earned it on the wall.
I also want to throw out a congratulations to Wes from my beginner jiu-jitsu class, who was another guy awarded his blue belt just a night or two after that. So congratulations to him as well.
Hey, Boyd. Hold on. I got a question for you.
Yeah, shoot. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, I got a question for you.
Okay. So I did want to remind people on the MMA front that we have Elite One coming up on May 30th in St. John, New Brunswick. I'm hearing rumors of an Extreme Cage Combat show in Halifax sometime in mid-June. Hoiko Productions is another MMA promotion out of New Brunswick. They've promoted in the past. Sort of a smaller promotion is going to be putting on a show, I think, in June or July as well. And the amateur promotion, Extreme Canadian Cage Rage, that's Steve Williams' promotion, is doing War on the Shore in Bouctouche, New Brunswick. So a whole lot of MMA between now and the sunny days of summer. So if you're in the Maritimes, get on social media, check that stuff out. There's going to be some awesome matchups coming up in the next month or two.
That's awesome, brother. So we ran way over the time tonight. I apologize, Skip. Are you with us, my friend?
Oh, hey, look, you guys could have gone for another hour. I was enjoying it.
Okay, so I want to throw this question out. You've got a street fighter and you've got an MMA guy, and they're going to battle it out. Who's going to win that fight? Tell me that.
Are they fighting MMA rules, or are they fighting street fighter rules?
There's a fight breaks out, man. A fight breaks out on the street. Who's going to win that fight?
Easy.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you right now, all day long, because he's going to take it to the ground and not take any damage from somebody who doesn't understand footwork, body positioning, balance, center of gravity, striking, counter-striking. So they're going to eat him up, take him to the ground, choke him out more than likely.
Okay, now let me tell you something. That question got asked to me, and that was my first absolute reaction, exactly what you just said right there. But Boyd, how many street fights you been in your life, man?
0.
0? Honestly, I've been in them before in my life. I've been in life and death battles in my life, seriously. And Buddy told me, he said, check out this show Banshee. And I had never watched it, but I had heard about it. Put this into YouTube, Banshee. I think I put in Banshee MMA, or MMA, I think is what I put in there. And this is a little scene in this television show where it's an MMA fighter versus a street fighter, okay? And I looked at that fucking video, and man, it was graphic, but it was pretty realistic, and it was pretty cool to watch. Check it out, I dare you.
Will do. We'll check that out. Two observations. Number one, if it was an MMA fighter versus a street fighter, it is still a scripted and choreographed fight.
Absolutely. But if you've ever been in a street fight before in your life, the rules are a lot different. The rules that we get trained with aren't the ones
for who I would like to ask. You know who I would like to ask that question to? I would like to ask that question to Ray McKinnon.
Yeah,
because I know
absolutely.
Ray over the years has done a lot of stuff not around fight training and sport training, but around self-defense and about sort of combat, attack, and those types of things. I'd love to ask Ray that question and see what he thought about it.
And Martel as well.
Yeah, and Martel as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul Abel.
Anyways, watch that video. Look it up on the TV series is Banshee, and I put in Banshee MMA, and I sat back and I was like, holy shit, been there, done it. It's bad. Anyways, check it out.
Okay, Skippy, thanks a lot for all the help, man. Glad you enjoyed the show. I'm excited to be turning it over to Craig and whoever he brings on as co-host or partner in crime. Those guys are going to educate us a little bit on all the wonderful grappling stuff that we have here in Atlantic Canada, and then we'll switch the focus back to MMA and see if we can't cover some of the stuff that's coming up in June and July and into the fall, because I know there's going to be an awful lot of fights taking place with the promotions all back up and running in New Brunswick, and ECC getting ready for going into their summer and fall season. So it's going to be good stuff. As we say, that's enough BS for one night.
And remember to wear your sunscreen. Check out that song. It's good.
Cheers, boys.
Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top-quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farm Box Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.